Welcome to another CEO Wisdom Pod. We have Casey Meehan with us. He is CEO at Epic Present. Nowadays, he's an AI consultant. So we're gonna have a great conversation. But watch out, Casey, because I get pretty deep pretty fast. I think you're ready for that because you spend a good amount of your time thinking about AI and the
Uh,
implications for this world. So yeah, just before we jump in, this podcast brought to you by podpar.com. That's my podcasting agency. If people want to start, scale, be invited to podcasts, that's a place to go. If they want to get podcast sponsors for their pod, I help them monetize their podcasts. Podcasts are fabulous, to say the least. They allow you to meet new people. They allow you to learn from these people, grow your network, grow your community through subscribers, get leads, and even get clients. So if you want to get rich, there's no better flywheel than podcast. And yeah, caveat on the getting rich, it will take a while, but it's true perennial wealth when you build something that strong and that strong of a back end. So podpower.com if you need help for that. Casey, I've been talking forever by now. Tell me a bit more about yourself and Epic Presence.
you bet. Yeah, Epic Presence is an agency I started about 10, 11 years ago now, and came out of the SEO world, which changed quite a bit to put a focus on content more than anything else. So we've been a group of writers. At our high point, we were up to about 15, 20 full-time employees. That's scaled back a little bit now as we're transitioning things over. I done a lot of work with Salesforce.com and other unicorns in the software space. That was our area of expertise, was SaaS. And now I'm transitioning. I'd been doing a lot of work in machine learning and AI, just sort of as a hobby since 2018. And since that really started to come into the forefront in the past year or so, I'm now transitioning and helping other agency owners, CMOs, and people like that to use these new tools for marketing and strategy.
So, what are these tools and what use cases are there for them?
Sure. So obviously ChatGPT is the biggest one. OpenAI is probably the one who gets the most attention, but there are some much better models coming out. The two that I like probably more than ChatGPT currently is Anthropic's Claude, which allows the large language model to have a much bigger short-term memory or a context window. And then there is a tool called Perplexity AI, which allows the large language model to be connected to the internet to do all sorts of internet research. So between those two, I sort of think of them as my interns, where Claude is my writing expert and Perplexity is my research expert. And I spend a lot of time copying and pasting things back and forth between those two. And I'm working on software scripts to actually automate that process as well. So those are a few. I could keep on going. There's a lot around agents. There's a lot around vector embedded databases we could talk about, guardrails, things like that. But that's sort of the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, I want to be selfish here. So I was using Claude. Uh, it was amazing up until they asked me for a US phone number, which I don't have. I'm a Canadian citizen. I have a Canadian phone number, you idiots.
Uh-oh.
So yeah, I have not been using Claude for the last 2 weeks, and yeah, shout out to their team. They're gonna learn about that. Anyway, I was on the track to develop a nice system with Claude in which I would ask it for all the podcast guests that went on Lex Friedman show, let's say, and then it would pull me out a list of their websites and even their emails sometimes. And I was working quite well. I don't know of any other methods to do that. It would also clean out big PDFs for me, which was really useful. So my question is, how can you do that with or without Claude? Is there a way that I can just get all the guests, the podcast guests email like that with AI?
I don't know, frankly. I guess I've got a bone to pick with cold email outreach. I've done a whole lot of it early on, but these days I'm getting 20 to 30 of these an hour, it feels like, and it's just starting to drive me insane. So, I get it. I've done it, but I feel like there's much better ways to grow an audience and to generate leads and to generate, well-being, I guess, for the world than hitting people in the inbox. So I don't really focus in that area of using it to research folks' email. But I think, you could get at those larger context windows with just breaking things down, I guess, into ChatGPT would be one way. If, getting to the use case of the large PDFs, etc. I guess, I would say just breaking that down, but I'm surprised that you're having such trouble with Claude. I think they're going through some changes as far as, there wasn't an API not that long ago. There really wasn't even a pro plan a couple weeks ago. That's all brand new. So I think that you'll probably get back in there pretty quickly, and be able to use that. I would imagine there's probably a lot of other people in the same boat as you.
Yeah, there's
So
33 million Canadian, and yeah, they have good money. So shout out to the Claude team there. For cold email, I don't know of any other methods that would allow me to get 100 meetings a month. It's like saying ads don't work and ads are miserable. But I mean,
no, they work for me, and I guess it's different for different folks. For me, when I was doing it, it wasn't really bringing in the right fit clients. So I think if you're really going to, dedicate to content and to growing your own audience, that's the best way to just get people coming to you. So you don't even, 90% of the sales are done at that point, rather than the folks who respond to cold email at this point. Oftentimes, for whatever you're selling, it may not be the best buyer out there. So I know we may differ on that point, but
yeah, I have the hard science though. Like for this podcast, for example, it's a front end. When you talk about front end, you have a couple of choice, so ads, cold email, SEO, I guess, which is what you're talking about here, content. But content, what I don't, well, I mean, it's a bit like cold email in the sense that you never predict how the algorithm is gonna react. And it's not that there's a channel necessarily that's better than the other. It's more like, is it a fit with you, your values, your skills, and so forth. But for example, and also if you spend 10,000 hours like in one channel, obviously you're gonna get really, really good. Cold email and even LinkedIn outreach, for example, yes, it's plaguing a lot of inboxes there, but these are young folks and they're trying, and eventually they'll get better. But I do agree that this will become a problem. This is why I had Andy Mowat from Gated on my podcast. It's like, hey, I don't know you. Please fill this out here to make sure that we're fit. There's Verified Ink that I've seen also popping lately that is like verify your email and verify that you're legit. And even before that, the ancestors of that were spam filters. I still think that, yeah, spam filters do somewhat of a great job to filter out the noise from what's good out there. But yes, there will be a problem because of AI and the scalability, right? Because ads are controlled by platforms, so they have the flow, the control on the flow of that. But email, the beauty and the beast is that it's a wild west, right? There's no really a platform that is designated to control that. And now SEO, and I want to ask you straight up, what do you feel will happen with SEO? Do you feel that AI can produce valid or valuable content that can get us traction? What is your stance on that?
I think it can. I think that, there's a lot of people worried about putting, AI written content out there, and they should be mostly worried if it's just thin content, if it's garbage content, if there's no thought into it, if it's just like they popped a keyword in there, said, write me 500 words on this keyword, you're not going to see any traffic. No matter how many of those you do, and you could get the thin content penalties and land yourself in a lot of trouble. But what I like to do is start with maybe a transcript. Maybe it's the conversation we're having now, or other types of content, transcribing that, dropping that into Claude, and from that transcript saying, hey, what are some blog post ideas from this transcript? And now you have, it's quick and easy. It's just as easy as the other way, but you have embedded in it some unique knowledge that it can pull from. And then there's a lot of ways to improve upon that, especially if you copy and paste that into Perplexity and say, hey, what stats can you go out on the internet and find some stats to validate XYZ here and pull those in with the citations and start to build a very credible cited article that's completely free of hallucinations. That's one of the workflows that I've been really excited about, is taking the copy that Claude or that ChatGPT creates, dumping that into Perplexity, or actually asking Claude or ChatGPT what data, what information would make this a more compelling blog post. And it'll say, it'd be great if we had stats around XYZ. Grab that and copy that straight into Perplexity and say, hey, go out, see if we can find any stats around XYZ. And you just copy that straight back into Perplexity and ask it to weave that into the draft, making sure the citations are there. I think that's a great way to really build some high quality content that people are going to get a lot out of. And that's all the search engines care about, is if someone's reading that entire article and digesting it, you bet they're going to put that in the SERPs. It's only the thin content that's going to get weeded out. So that's my stance on content, blog article creation. But I do think SEO in general is going to be changing quite a bit as there's more and more content getting created in the written form and in every form. The search engines, at the same time, there's more people going to ChatGPT directly or Perplexity, to these other places, rather than searching on Google. I think the whole strategy of organic growth with blog posts is going to get more and more and more challenging. It already was very challenging. And so that's sort of the bigger picture here, is that there's going to be more content and potentially less searches for it. So it's going to be interesting. I would highly suggest folks, kind of broaden the different channels that they're working on. I think there's a lot of folks getting a lot of good organic reach out of LinkedIn currently. I think YouTube Shorts is another great opportunity for organic reach. And these are the places where I'm focusing now to build an audience versus, blog articles and some other methods that I had been doing.
Not sure how Google can scale, granted that it have so many investors that are expecting revenue from them, and their whole bias is about putting, like, theoretically, right, people that pay the most at the top, and that is bias right there. While ChatGPT seems to be going for the truth. It's two different market, and by scale, I mean there's a bunch of folks that care less about the truth and want surface level answers and are cool with that. But I think that ChatGPT is like, and obviously there's the hallucination problem, but I think they're going for the truth. How do you see the dynamics here, and what would be the macro consequences of that?
Well, I think that the biggest thing I'm curious about right now related to that is Gemini, Google's new model, that they seem to think, and some of the experts that I work with seem to think, that Gemini could be much better than ChatGPT and also plugged directly into the internet, so that there is no, they're claiming there's going to be zero time between, something. Right now, ChatGPT is trained on data that's back from 2021. They're saying Gemini will be as powerful, but all of its data will be like completely up to date, which is getting a lot of the folks in the machine learning space to scratch their heads and not really sure how that works and how that's happening. But if they can pull that off, then, the table switches back into Google being the more powerful one. And if everybody's using that, then they can just sneak their ads in all around that. But I think SEO, as far as we know it, getting an article or a landing page to rank is going to be completely turned on its head. It's going to be a totally different process going forward than it has been. So that's I guess kind of where my head's at related to that question.
Bard, it sucked for a while. Apparently they updated it not so long ago.
I've heard it's better. I haven't experimented with it recently, but I've heard from pretty credible folks that it's gotten better recently. And they've also recently rolled out, the ability to plug into Google Drive and access your information there. I know Microsoft's racing to do that as well. That'll open up a lot of different functionality as well.
I see extensions as well. I'm gonna check that out. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
gonna run a couple of tests. So why do you think the Google team was so slow on that? And second, why do you think Apple is so slow on an AI level?
I don't know. I think it's just the big company syndrome. Once these companies get big, they get lazy. They don't have they don't have, when it's a small company like OpenAI or Anthropic Claude, like they have to succeed or they will die. But a department at Google might just get shuffled around and they'll call it a different name, and they just don't have the fire in their gut that the startups have. And I think that's just been throughout history. The larger companies never seem to last, even though they have such a lead. But it's crazy. Yeah, it's mind-boggling. And I think if Gemini turns out to be another Bard situation, that's going to be it for Google. You know what I mean? Like, I think they have lost at that point. I don't see how they can come back from such catastrophic failure a second time, at least in my mind, when everybody else is performing all these magical feats with technology. So,
Yeah. Because I mean, humongous companies like that, they have such a big moat, an iceberg that we're not seeing. So it could be like the domino effect of like failure over failure, and that brings other failures, and then that would be a catastrophic chain reaction. And if it goes extinct, like a giant, it takes more time to fall. Not sure if that makes physical sense, but yeah, it will
yeah,
take
there's
time to.
momentum there for sure that will keep it alive for a while, for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, that idea of a moat, I don't know if you saw, but there a few months ago there was a press release or some sort of leak information where with these large language models, apparently they're fairly easy to train. Now that it seems like OpenAI figured this out, a lot of these companies are afraid of their moats, and these, open source models are starting to be, pretty close second place. So it's hard to see. A lot of them are afraid that no one's going to have a moat going forward, that anybody in their garage could create something like OpenAI, which that's kind of scary to me. But
Well, I think it's like pretty much inoffensive at this stage, and that's good. The question is like, who will come up with the next innovation, the next like OpenAI wow factor that they have? And usually innovation is tough to copy. I'm not sure why it got out that quick. But yeah, like, how do you, in your opinion, how do you recreate an OpenAI Marvel Avengers team like that to produce like such innovation in short amount of time?
well, I mean, I think that they've just figured out how to do it by brute force. I mean, this is oversimplifying it, of course, but they just opened this doorway and said, if you just feed in enough information into these things, and I think specifically it's when they taught it code. So when they taught it Python and taught it to learn how to code is when I've heard that the actual whole model, the whole language, text part of it, the non-code part of it got much better. It started to understand because it could understand code a lot easier, and then it could use those that intel on its text. And now that they've figured out that all works just with, if you just apply a lot of server power to it, there are these other models that are coming out. These open source models are coming out and just getting better and better daily. So yeah, I think their team like kind of cracked that code and probably got lucky to some degree. But a lot of experts didn't think that would work not that long ago, a year or two ago, didn't think that that was a good method, and they just proved that it works. And so now a lot of folks are taking that recipe specifically, and recreating it. I think, I've been doing a lot of work with these different agents. So there's these different things going around, baby AGI and things like that, which are using the LangChain library to connect these large language models to the world in various ways and get them to actually do things, interact with APIs, and interact with the web in various ways. That I think is the biggest place for innovation, where that's not really working great now. And I think in the few months that'll probably start to work a lot better and open up a lot of doors to different new functionality. I think there's a lot of work also around the memory, these larger memory capacities for these. So there's these vector embedded databases are ways to get the model to look at your specific information. And I think that that's not working quite as well as it will be in the next few months. That'll open up a lot of doors. And the context window, I think that's the biggest thing. Like Claude's context window is so large. That's its short-term memory. I think you know this, but maybe not everybody listening will know this. Once that opens up, there's just so many more possibilities. It's not just more of the same. It just opens up more doors to do more things with it. So those are the things that I think are going to really accelerate things even more in the next 6 months or so.
Agents are interesting, and I was thinking about something funny related to cold email and people's friskiness to risk and aversion to looking bad out there. I think agents, people that will take massive advantage of the agents revolution, they will first have this experimental mindset. So they will let go the agents go pretty quick. Even if these agents do dumb things, they will assume that risk and they will pivot on that, and they will make better experiments and so forth until they reach almost market ubiquity. The other blocker to that would be that these agents will charge me something, right? So I'll need to have a big old cash cushion to deploy these agents out there in the market, whether it's a sales agent. I think that would be like the number one use case. And then obviously an operation agent that would take care of my clients and so forth. When I have the two, I have pretty much of a flywheel, then obviously there would be a financial agent and so forth. When do you think the first agents will be deployed? And do you agree with these thesis of mine?
Yeah, I think, once you have somebody that, an agent that is fully trained on, how to sell for you, and then one that's fully trained on customer support, that's going to be an interesting place to be. That involves not only the agent frameworks, but also those knowledge-based frameworks. So that involves both of the two concepts that I just spoke about, where they're not only going to have to be able to do stuff, they're going to have to know exactly how to do it your way, which is the one would be the agent doing stuff. The second would be the knowledge base to refer to, when they're selling it. I don't know that you're going to need a big bankroll when these things come out. Frankly, I think that there's going to probably be people charging a lot of money for some of them. But something that I've really been excited about is that anybody that's a little bit technical these days can really become their own coder very quickly. Just yesterday, every day I'm using ChatGPT to create a new script for me to do something. And I'm just shocked at how easy it is. Stuff that I used to have my virtual assistant do, and it would take her a couple weeks. I can just write a script and have it done right then, within 10, 20 minutes for simple tasks like that. So I think this wall between these a coder, somebody who's building these agents, or, or somebody who you would be paying for to build these agents, and yourself is eroding. And I feel like we're on the verge of a major revolution where we're going to all have we're all going to build our own systems in a lot of ways. Anybody that's even a little bit technical will be able to build their own. Instead of, Salesforce, you could just build your own CRM that doesn't have all those bells and whistles, but it has exactly the bells and whistles that you need to function, and you can just keep building on top of that yourself. I think it's a lot like thinking about going out to eat. It's like we've been forced to eat in restaurants our entire lives, and now we're going to learn how to cook, and we're going to learn how to make our own meals. There's going to be some people that still prefer to go to McDonald's, but I think for the more technical people, they're going to be excited to create their own systems internally that are completely bespoke and customized to their processes. And I think you'll be able to build these own your own agents a lot easier than, modifying something. There may be an in-between step where there's somebody comes out with one that you just pay for and use. But I think, pretty quickly there's going to be a time when we can create our own software, very powerful software, not just little scripts, but things like you mentioned pretty quickly.
I do agree with everything you said. What are your top 3 goals for this year?
Top 3 goals. So I've pivoted a lot into creating video. I have a YouTube channel called Blazing Zebra that's just getting off the ground. And this is all of everything I'm learning about AI. It's all demos and how-tos. So that's my big goal right there, is getting that, getting more and more subscribers there. And really just, looking for these other avenues of organic growth. Like I said, LinkedIn, getting much better on LinkedIn, and, some of the YouTube shorts, and getting more into social media than SEO. I had been really SEO focused for so many years. I had sort of neglected the social media side of things. So that's, I guess, in a nutshell, my goals for the next coming year. It's kind of interesting. It's sort of the end of, we're going into Q4. So I've kind of got, I'm just focusing on wrapping up, getting that channel off the ground and expanding it a little bit. And then next year I'll be kind of building my new set of goals. What are yours? I'm curious what yours are.
Mine. So I'm still working on the cash cow aspect of things. So building my 3 main agencies. So one is a podcast one is a cold email one is a your GPT one. So those are the 3 that would be like the cash cow aspect of it. Spend more time on the Mastermind would be the second one. So it's a nice back end. It's free also for now. Have paid offers on that level too, but just like keep in touch with CEOs. And yeah, still get a bunch of podcasts on a daily basis, 50% of my meetings on a daily basis, and the other 50 I'd go for straight up sales calls for, again, the cash aspect here. That cash I'd invest in a couple of years in longevity, AGI or BCI. That would be my master plan.
Awesome, man. I love it. I could talk to you about that too. That's
Yeah.
a passion area for me as well. It's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. The future is beautiful. Where can people find out more about you, Casey?
I'm on LinkedIn, Casey Meehan on LinkedIn, or check out the YouTube channel, Blazing Zebra. I've been posting a video or 2 every week that I've been spending a lot of time on. So hopefully you can get some helpful use out of that. And either of those can lead you directly to me. So feel free to shout out.
I am Charles Cormier. That was Casey Meehan, and you can find both of us at founderwisdompodcast.com.